On the Sukuk bonds, now, when we talk about treasury bonds or when we talk about fixed income securities in many different countries, there are two things that come to mind. The first one is different countries have different fixed income products depending on how they structure it and what they want to fund. The most common one, which many of us have come to know, is what we call the treasury bonds. Those are straightforward. They are so much for monetary policy. But in the fixed income arena or the fixed income products, there are so much more out there. That brings us to the conversation of maybe the infrastructure bond, which we know so much in Kenya. The Sukuk bond, it's very good in Tanzania. We have the green bond, it's in Tanzania. We had actually a green bond by a corporate entity in Kenya, Safaricom. Then the diaspora bond. And in the last 1 year in Uganda, there has been a consistent conversation by the government to see that it expands the offering of the different fixed income products, of the different bonds. Let's call them bonds. Now, it so happens that one of the biggest demands of the country is infrastructure. We need significant amount of infrastructure development for our country to leap into the 400 billion country in the next 15 years. One of the structured infrastructure is the standard gauge railway, the one that connects us tonight to Kenya. And the government, I believe, I've talked to a few people, but I believe they have come up with a way to finance it using the Sukuk, partly the Sukuk method, where they raise financing based on the Islamic structure. Now, when we talk about the different types of treasury bonds, we're talking about the Sukuk bond. The uniqueness about the Sukuk bond is in a way how it is structured and the full prospectus. Like I've said, we do not have the prospectus yet, but it gives, the understanding is it gives a direct risk linkage and revenue into the product when someone buys that Sukuk product, that Sukuk bond. And it's that element that kind of complies with the Sharia and the riba rules by our Muslim friends for them not to take on interest. Because with the Sukuk kind of arrangement, when the project that is being funded, like for example in this case, the Standard Gauge Railway, because it's a commercial project, it's a commercially viable project, you get a pie of the revenue or the profits. So when you make it in that understanding, you mean that the government is trying to raise revenue, debt in a sukuk element that allows those who will buy into this treasury, into this sukuk bond, to be in a position to take on risk that comes with revenue generation with the railway. That is simply it. In the Muslim world, it's about that, the compliance that in case I fund your project, if you make losses, I will get some losses. If I make profit, I'll make profits. It's not guaranteed. Now, will there be some guarantees on what revenue the government will be able to pay the investors? We are yet to know. We do not have the Sukuk prospectus yet. But one element that I've learned so far is that this bond is going to be a multi-currency bond. That means, and it's going to be listed on the Uganda Securities Exchange, and maybe a few other exchanges. It's going to be multi-currency, one, to afford it, raise it some money locally. And by today morning, they have appointed the Citibank to be the lead in raising the financing for the Standard Gauge Railway. Part of it is going to be the Sukuk bond. So it's going to be multi-currency, which would mean for the first time we might get a listed foreign denominated debt. One of the reasons Uganda has managed to stay away, to stay or close to managing its debt has been we have not yet had FX risks when it comes to our debt, especially listed debt. Majority of our foreign debt is concessional loan. Now, for the first time, they're about to put a commercial debt that is going to be listed in different currencies. We don't know how many currencies, but one thing I'm sure they're going to be the local currency, the UGX, they're going to be the dollar currency, I believe they might list it in the, because they're trying to target the Islamic financing, they should target so much the Middle East, the Arabian countries. We might have to see maybe a dirham listing. So for the people who are in Saudi Arabia, in the United Arab Emirates, who are always, and those investors, institutional investors who are always looking for Sharia compliant rule investments, that might be the position. Now, having said that, that is what the Sukuk Bond is going to do. And I see the way they did it is to try to combine Sukuk Bond with infrastructure bond. It's rarely do they do that. An infrastructure element. Most times when what countries do, they just issue an infrastructure bond. Here, they have structured, because infrastructure is at the core, they are using part of the Sukuk element to finance it, around $400 million. And what that does is that for the first time, they are going to have to sit back and allow FX to play a game, to play some role in this issuance, because it's not going to be just UGX, it's going to be other foreign currency. But the question becomes, should you invest in it when it comes? When it comes, we shall have to break down the prospectus. The prospectus tells us so much more. It tells us what is this. We know it's going to be a special purpose vehicle. Is it going to be the equity? What's going to be the equity? What's going to be the financing? It's going to come back to how many years it's even going to take to invest before we start getting some income in it. Now, when you look at, for example, expressway, standard Entebbe expressway, people talk about it and they say, oh, the Chinese are going to collect tolls for the next 30 years before they recover money. So that means the money they invested, it's going to take them 30 years to be recouped, to recoup the capital. You know? So it's going to come back. At the end of the day, for our Muslim friends, that's okay. Because either way, we have not been having anything that is Islamic compliant. So the Sukuk Bond will give them another alternative of something they can invest in passively as they make an income. For anyone else who is invested, who always assesses, and if you have followed me, it's going to come back to assessing, are we making money from this? What is its competitive advantage? Should I diversify for the sake of diversification? What guarantees is the government putting in place? If it gets listed on the Uganda Securities Exchange, what is going to be the liquidity flow, the demand and supply of the shares of this special purpose vehicle, right? So when you do understand those questions and how you have to answer them, that's where you're going to make the decision. Should I invest? Should I not invest? Should I not? Should I wait and I see how it plays out? What other products are coming? We know there was a talk for the government to bring in 4 types of bonds. The Sukuk Bond, I'm happy it's coming. An infrastructure bond, which is structured purely for infrastructure, the same way we see them in Kenya. A green bond to finance green projects. And the diaspora bond to finance the diaspora, to kind of tap into the diaspora elements. The only question right now is, if you are talking about the diaspora bond, now we are dealing with the sovereign bill. Sometimes the politics of the day sometimes dictates a lot of things, but I don't understand it. But maybe it's me who doesn't understand it. But that's what we have in the Sukuk Bond.